I think the best art comes from inside and not from external things. So even though it's good to have an idea of where you're going, maybe you can be inspired by a song, but I think we should leave that as soon as possible behind and focus on our own song and creation and see where that goes. So the message here is not that reference tracks are bad or you should not use them. Actually, there are situations where I feel like reference tracks are valid and important. And I would love to know what you think about this topic and hear your opinion in comments below. When I refer to reference mixes, I'm talking about songs by other artists or producers. On the other hand, a rough mix is a very different matter. A rough mix is a preliminary version that you get from the producer or whoever is before you in the chain. It's more of a sketch of what they envision the final mix to be, and I believe rough mixes are extremely useful and important, and I always pay close attention to them when I work. So even though both are used for reference, they're both very fundamentally different. And this whole video is more about one's philosophy of life. There are people who like to do things following trends and following what other people are doing and trying to be radio friendly as such. And then there are people who are contrarians who like to do things the opposite way, or simply doing things their own way, being unique and original. And I belong more into the latter group. When I make my own videos, I kind of don't want to know what people are doing because I don't want to be influenced by trends or what people are up to. So when it comes to reference tracks, they're really, really useful when you're writing a song or when you're getting inspired by something. But I believe we have to leave them as soon as possible in the process because we don't want to copy something else too much because that might interfere with our inner voice and our inner creativity, and we might get sidetracked by staring too closely on another piece of work. I don't think there's anything wrong with being inspired by somebody or inspired by another song when you're writing it or producing it. But in the mixing stage, I don't really believe in reference tracks as much because by the time a song reaches the mixing stage, I feel that the inspiration from the reference track should already be baked into the track. And that should come from the decisions you're taking in the production and in the songwriting. Because it's also very, very hard to mix one song to sound like another song. You might just confuse yourself and become frustrated because your song doesn't sound like the other song, when perhaps it shouldn't, perhaps it's a different song. But there are exceptions when I will listen to a reference track more closely. And that is if somebody asks me to specifically copy a sound, like a piano sound or something. And then I will listen to it and try to recreate that sound in my mix, even though it's very hard to copy another sound unless that was done from the start. So then I always assume that this artist or producer recorded it in the same way too, used the same kind of instrument or microphone or played it in the same way. Because you cannot mix something to sound like something else unless it was captured in that way. So there are moments when reference tracks are important in a mix, but most of the times I use the production as the reference for the mix. And I do that through the rough mix. And finally, there are other great uses of reference tracks. For example, if you're trying to learn a new studio or a new pair of speakers, and you're trying to calibrate your ears to that pair of speakers or room, then it can be really, really important to have a reference track that you listen to and you get used to the room. In my next video, I'm gonna return to more technical mixing content again, where I show you stuff inside of the DAW. So make sure you press that notification bell so that you know when that video drops.
Psychologist, and I've known you for thousands of days. You're just clumsy.